Hey guys, quick notes on some things that have come out in the last couple of days here from NAR. They did a flash survey of members. They sent out 97,000 surveys to members and asked them about what they're experiencing during the first week of April. So flash survey about April. It's important information to kind of get inside of where buyers and sellers' heads are at right now. And some really key pieces of data I just wanted to share with you for a few minutes. So number one is talking about how are sellers feeling in terms of reducing their price. Have they had price reductions during the first week in April? 72% said no price reductions yet. 16% said yes, but less than 5%. 8% said between 5 and 10%, and the rest was just minimal. Interesting that sellers have not yet kind of released on pricing. But what is buyers' expectations that are still in the market? The buyers that are actually still out there looking for homes. 37% are not expecting a price adjustment yet, but there's people that are. So 37% aren't expecting it. 16% said yes, but they wouldn't expect much, like 5% or less. But 23% were expecting 5 to 10% price reduction because of what's happening with COVID. 9% were expecting 11 to 15% price adjustment. And shockingly, 15% were expecting more than 15% in a price reduction. So there is going to be a little bit of pricing pressure here. Doesn't that mean we should all run out and encourage our sellers to reduce their price? Not necessarily. But we should definitely maybe consider having the conversation with them if they are not priced competitively now. Certainly you don't want to be in this market space if you're not priced competitively, because what we're experiencing really, as I'll share with you these numbers as we dive deeper, is far less buyers than we typically have in a spring market. But we also have far less competition. So, those might be evening themselves out a little bit. But if you're at all overpriced, now is a perfect opportunity to have that conversation. What you might say is, hey, of course, we're in a different market environment than a typical spring market. Good news is homes are still selling, right? You might share the 24-hour report with your sellers. You could also follow that up by saying, hey, the ones that are really attracting buyers are the homes that are really competitively priced. Ultimately, what creates showings is pricing. Pricing is always the greatest motivator. It's our number one marketing tool. At this point, I would probably recommend that we consider repositioning your home in the market, maybe adjusting the price to meet the market. Great term, adjusting the price to meet the market. But ultimately, hey, you're in charge. What would you like to do? And let them decide. Would you like me to give you some more comps? Would you like to see what's actually sold in our peer group over the last week or two here? So arm them with good information. What else did we learn from this flash survey that was done by NAR? Here's another piece of information which I thought was very interesting, which is on technology tools. What tools are realtors using right now in the midst of this crisis? 50% are using live videos, but interestingly enough, 50% are not. So that creates an opportunity for you that are going to embrace video as a part of your strategy. You're going to eliminate half your competition, boom, just like that, because people are not using it. The other interesting thing is the use of virtual meetings with systems like WebEx and Zoom. I'm using Zoom on a daily basis, sometimes an hourly basis. I'm sure many of you are as well. But 55% of the people surveyed said they are not using any level of virtual meeting technology. Huge opportunity, because these agents that are refusing to move, refusing to budge, refusing to do business differently are going to be left by the wayside. All the agents that are embracing change, embracing technology, and rapidly converting over to a different market environment are going to win. How rapid are you moving? It's a good question to ask yourself. But let's talk about buyer and seller behavior. This is the most telling part of the survey. The most telling part of the survey was this, and that is what's buyer's behavior and seller's behavior. Buyer behavior, in general, 59% of the people surveyed that were buyers are saying they're delaying their purchase by up to 2 months. 59%. So 60% of the buyers we would typically have in spring are putting it off for a couple months. So that's what we have to realize. And then if you dig a little deeper, 13% are continuing on with their search process. 8% said absolutely no change at all. the 13%, they're doing it just adjusting a little bit, maybe doing virtual showings, virtual open houses, a little bit of adjusting. But 8% said they're not changing at all. And then another 8%, they just don't know. They haven't decided yet. So roughly a quarter of your buyers are still in the marketplace, still actively in the market to buy, but 60% are not. That doesn't mean they won't buy. It just means they're not buying now. So when we're lead generating, we have to look at this. I'm going to tell you how much we're going to have to adjust here in just a second, but let's look at the seller side on the seller. So 57% of sellers said they're waiting a couple months to see how this crisis resolves, right? So they are on a pause. You know, they're going to wait a minute. 17% of sellers said they're going to continue on, but with some modifications, probably in the showing procedures, obviously. 10% are, weighing their options. They haven't really made a decision. And another 8% said no change at all. They're continuing as business as usual. So again, you're here about the 25% range of sellers that are going to stay in the game. Kind of same thing with buyers. So about 25%, about a quarter of your clients are going to march forward through this process, taking advantage of low interest rates, maybe getting some better deals, when they become a buyer. So there's advantages and they're recognizing those advantages, but a big portion are not. So how do we react to this? Do we climb in the bunker, turn on Netflix and forget about everything? Or do we continue working? So here's what the way you should look at this. You should look at this: if I want to even out my income and I want to make the same amount of income I did last year at this time, what do I need to change? Because you will have to change something in order to continue to have that income. You should look at it this way. If I have 25% of the buyers and sellers still in the market and 75% are not, that means I have to increase my lead gen by 4x, because the 25% are still there. To get to 100%, I got to go 4x. So that means if I generally made 5 calls a day, what do I got to do? 4 times 5 is 20 calls a day. If I generally sent 5 texts a day, I got to go 4x. I got to go to 20 texts. If I generally sent 5 cards a day, I got to go, 4x. I got to send 20 cards. These sound like massive amounts, and they are, but it's not forever. It's only for a 60-day sprint. Remember, that pool of buyers and sellers said they're delaying. They're not coming off the market. They're just putting it off a little bit. Now, there's some advantages here, guys. Now, you might think, oh my gosh, Jim. Yeah, it's going to be harder work right now. There's no doubt about it. We're going to have to dig in. We're going to have to fight. We're going to have to keep working. But there's some advantages here. Let me point out the advantages. One is this, and that is that there's a massive group of agents that are just going to go park. They're not going to work. They may retire, they may exit the business. There's going to be a large attrition through this process. That's good for the market. But there's also a lot that are just not going to do anything for now. They're going to really go into hibernation mode. That's going to leave the core group of hard workers there to pick up a lot of market share, a lot of client share. So there's opportunities there. But beyond that, for those of you that dive in and say, hey, I'm not just going to work 8 hours a day. I'm going to go 10, 12, 14. I'm going to all in on this. Here's the advantage. Not only am I going to get that 25% now business, and because I've gone 4x, I've evened my income out from last year, but I'm going to capture all this business that's going to stack up. The 60% that will do business in the next 60 days, they're not wasted opportunities. Every time I talk to someone, they say, yeah, Jim, I do something, but I got to wait. I just don't feel comfortable. No problem. Not here to pressure you. Let's just put it on the calendar. I'll calendar a call, and I'll get in touch with you when you're ready to do business, right? And 60 days from now, I'm going to have stacked up all of this business, because there's going to be a wave. There's going to be a super surge of activity once this is over. Huge pent-up demand, huge seller demand, right? So that's an opportunity, and we can only tap that opportunity if we're continuing to lead generate throughout the crisis. Super, super important for you to do so. So I'm going to give you a link where you can actually download this whole report that I've just talked about, so you can check it out. And also, I just want to encourage you to think about how you're going to change your strategy for the next 60 days with a 4x strategy and stack up a lot of business going into when this crisis is over, and it will be over soon. Have a great day. Good selling. We'll see you next time over at eRealEstateCoach.com.